Students, in this video, we are going to discuss about the layout of aseptic area. In the previous video, we have discussed about the sources of contamination and contamination prevention in the aseptic area. Now, to prevent the contamination in the aseptic area, the building design or the layout of the aseptic area is equally important, and this will prevent the contamination due to environmental condition. And this layout is important because sterile pharmaceutical products are very critical and sensitive products. These products must be free from living microorganisms, pyrogens, and unacceptable particulate matters. These products must be handled very carefully in predefined environmental conditions. The specific requirements includes the fully trained personnel or operators handling the manufacturing process. Any failure will lead to affect the safety of the product, and it will have the compromise with the quality and or purity as well. Hence, certain elements are required to be considered in the processing of sterile pharmaceutical products. For example, only trained personnel should be allowed to the process. Layouts and the specifications of the manufacturing facilities and buildings should create and maintain the quality, purity, identity and safety of the product. Environment monitoring as per the standard guidelines is required. The quality of air, water, steam and other gases should be maintained. Sanitization and sterilization processes should be pre-validated. And next part comes is the ultimate goal to design the aseptic processing to eliminate the open processing, and instead of open processing, closed processing will be carried out. The layout is This is a typical layout of a sterile manufacturing area. The ultimate goal here is to have the procedure to be in a standard way, as well as the isolation of the production area with the other areas. The production area is basically divided into the clean room, preparation area, aseptic filling area, sterilization and the further processes. But here the main is we should have a designing and construction of the area in such a way that it should have a ease of cleaning, efficient operation, attractiveness, and it should be familiar or easier for the personnel as well. Now these different areas are basically classified into class A, B, C and D depending upon their environmental conditions to be maintained and in which area which type of function is to be carried out. Now we'll see first is the cleanup area. This cleaning area, first it will be having the walls and ceilings made up of film coating materials. Air inside this cleanup area should be free from dust and microorganisms. This is ensured through high efficiency filters. Air existing in the clean area should be frequently replaced, that is 10 to 15 air changes per hour. Then next comes is the preparation area or compounding area. This area contains the stainless steel cabinets and counters and is involved in the actual compounding. Aseptic area is requiring the maintenance of sterile conditions. Similarly, here This preparation area will be maintained as aseptic area, not as the sterile area. It should be adopted to control the dust generated from raw materials during weighing and compounding. Next comes is the aseptic area. In this area, strict control measures should be adopted to avoid the contamination of the preparations. The stainless steel cabins or counters should be such that they should not allow the dirt particles to accumulate. Mixing and storage of the compounded preparation should be done outside the aseptic area. Next area comes is the quarantine area. This area consists of a store where the process batches as well as the approved batches are stored separately. This area has limited access and is under the control of a responsible person. Without the consent of the in charge, other personnel cannot enter into this particular area. So quarantine area is also equally important. Then comes is the packaging and labeling. In this area, the batches are packed and labeled. Packing is carried out by packaging machines, while labels are obtained by overprinting devices. Parenteral packing plays a vital role in the production of sterile preparations. Packing should be carried out in such a manner that sterility of the product is maintained. Here we can see that there are four different grades: grade A, grade B, C and D. These are the four different classes of the areas in the manufacturing of the sterile pharmaceutical products. Grade A is one in which the sterilized drug product containers and closures are exposed to the environmental conditions and they must be designed to maintain the product sterility. In such areas, aseptic conditions, sterile ingredients, additions, such operations are done prior to filling and sealing of the containers. This area is critical because an exposed product can be vulnerable for the contamination. To maintain the product sterility, aseptic operations are performed at a controlled and maintained in appropriate quality. Grade B is the background for the operations conducted in a grade A. Grade C is necessary for filling of the products or preparation of the solutions that are unusually at a risk of contamination. For preparation of solutions that need to be sterile filtered, grade C is used. Grade D is used for the preparation of the products and components for the subsequent filling, handling of the components after washing. Now we can see that grade B is the supportive area where various classification functions are separated. That is, in grade A, whatever we are doing, for that it will be supportive, and these supporting is also needed although the compound is not sterile also, or the formulated products are to be stored. Then process material, equipments, container, closures, these will be held or transferred in such areas. Grade C is to maintain the air quality. So it is important to achieve a proper airflow from areas of higher cleanliness to the adjacent less clean areas. It is essential for rooms of higher air cleaning to have a substantial positive pressure difference relative to the adjacent rooms. For example, a positive pressure differential of at least 10 to 15 pascals should be maintained between rooms. Here, the aseptic processes are designed to minimize the exposure of sterile articles to the potential contamination and hazards. Both personnel and material flow should be restricted to prevent the unnecessary activities in order to avoid the entry of contaminants. The layout of the equipment should be like that. It is providing the optimized comfort and movement of the operators. The number of personnel in an aseptic room should be minimized. The flow of personnel should be designed in such a way that it was limiting the frequency of entries and exits. The sterile production unit must be separated from the general manufacturing area, or sometimes the critical operation areas from the general hospital pharmacy. Sterile production unit must be accessible to only authorized persons. Clean rooms should be removed from the main corridors, stairways, or lifts. It is important to design the clean room to be the smallest size, keeping in mind that the operations to be unhidden and number of people likely to be employed in the area. Now this particular table is explaining the number of microorganisms permitted in a different class of the areas. So this count will be taken into consideration, and these are the tests done for the testing of the areas, and these are the standards. So these standards should be maintained throughout to have the different classes as per their standard. Here we are going to discuss the sterile production area, where we are supposed to have the specific type of walls, ceilings, and the floors as well. These three components, that is floors, walls, and ceilings, they should be made in such a way that it should be easy to clean, disinfect, or sterilized. And to have the proper finishing, we can have use of epoxy coating to give the desired finish. Here the edges are avoided, the corners are also made smooth so that it cannot behave as a source for the contamination, or it cannot have the collection of the dust or the other material coming out of the processing. Then here one more important is the walls should be made up of either flexible or non-flexible type of material as per the requirement of the production area. Here we cannot have use of the fire catching material. We have to go for the such material which is non-flammable or it is a fire resistant. The walls which are made up of epoxy coating are useful, as well as here if we are going to have the use of stainless steel, glass, or enamel steel, then it will be quite easier. The plaster walls which are normally present, these are gets easily damaged. So to have the proper cleaning, we can go for use of 1% 8-hydroxyquinoline or salicylaldehyde. Then epoxy resin paints or polyurethane paints are also used to avoid the cracking and peeling in the walls and the ceilings. Walls and ceiling should be well sealed so that it cannot have the contamination, and the lighting source are always kept inside the ceiling so that it cannot have the entry of the contaminant because of that light source, as well as the non-useful switches are always kept outside the areas. Then next part comes is the doors, windows, and other services. Here in this photo we can see the wiring is outside the main area. So such type of utilities like wires, pipelines, these are always provided outside the manufacturing area, and doors should be always such that they will be easy to open and they cannot have the sliding or anything, so that it cannot have the cleaning properly. So these doors are not having any type of closing opening by
person only. Just you can push the door, it will be opened and it will be automatically closed. Here the personnel entry and exit is equally important. So in the manufacturing area, the entry is restricted by avoiding the windows as well to have the communication. Only the walls will be made up of the glass so that the supervisor can also supervise everything from outside, and only the person, those who are actually involved in the manufacturing, are only inside the area. And here the adequate space will be provided for the gowning and washing of the containers and equipments like that, so that it will be done prior to the actual manufacturing. Here the other utility services are kept nearby the area. Then all the pipes and ducts are marked with their direction of the flow, and they are having quite different color codes for the different solvents as well sometimes. Then here the electric and other fittings are also outside the area, and uh, whatever sinks or drains are there, these are also excluded from the manufacturing areas because they may have the source of contamination. Then hot air dryer should be provided for drying hands and fit wherever required. Gowning areas should be separated from the manufacturing area. Then entry to aseptic area and exit from the aseptic area should be through different routes. One entry and another route should be exit. Furnitures like table, chairs, etc. in the critical area should be made up of stainless steel so that it can withstand the repeated cleaning, sanitization and sterilization. Even writing pads are not allowed in the critical areas. However, whatever writing work is avoided, that can be done in the grade B area. In the grade A area, it will be avoided. Material transferred through the dynamic pass boxes, and these boxes are also provided with the high pressure laminar airflow and UV light inside this box. Then both the doors are having interlocking, and a pressure differential should be maintained 10 to 15 pascals, and always the doors will be open towards the high pressure air. Then comes is the personnel and protective clothing. Now in this picture we can see that it is having a one dress code, goggles, then mask, then head cap, hand gloves, and the different footwears or closing of the footwears. So this changeover we have to do before we enter into the particular manufacturing area. So all the people, those who are going to work in the aseptic area, should be emphasized on keeping body, hair, face, hands and fingers, nails clean. And if there is any illness or cut or there is a respiratory disorders or skin problems, they should be uh, conveyed to the higher authorities, and whatever changing and wash up procedures are there, these should be followed exactly. And protective clothing, whatever is this protective clothing, this should be maintained while entering into the production area. Do not wear cosmetics, jewelry or wristwatches. Leave all the personal items like wallets, coins, keys, watches, mobiles, comb, etc. in the changing rooms. Do not take paper, documents or paper materials into the clean room areas. And preferably here, no talk should be the main motto, or if required, minimum talking should be there. Then you are supposed to avoid the coughing, sneezing in the manufacturing area. Then comes is the what we are supposed to do is to avoid the contamination due to the personnel. Personnel should be selected to work on the preparation by having the good training prior. Then the movement of the personnel is restricted. The personnel actually working in the manufacturing unit, they should be isolated from the other conditions, and they should not be entering into some other area with this protective clothing. All personnel are trained for the GMP as well and the aseptic techniques, and This protective clothing is designed to prevent the contamination from the body, and every day clothing will be given for the washing as well. So this is regarding the layout and the other requirements required for the manufacturing of the sterile area. Thank you.